Hi everyone, welcome to episode 74 of the YarnderWoman podcast. My name is Melinda. You can find me as YarnderWoman on Instagram and Ravelry. We have a Ravelry group for the podcast, YarnderWoman Podcast, in the groups tab. And you can also find the show notes for this episode and every other on the blog at www.yarnderwoman.blogspot.com.au. Thank you so much for joining me. Today it is Thursday the 30th of August 2018. Had to think about that then, but yes, we're still in August, nearly September, which there goes the year. Today's my day off from work. I work full-time hours but a 9-day fortnight, so I get every second Thursday off, and I can think of fewer things that are nicer to do than to catch up with you all. So thank you so much for joining me, whether you are a returning viewer or you're new. Either way, thank you so much for being here and welcome. I've got lots to show you and I'm very excited. I'm drinking some lovely green tea here at the moment. Let's see, I don't really want to tip it too much further, but my cousin, his wife, and my, I suppose, second cousin, but my niece, visited us from Japan recently, and I asked them to bring me over several packets of the green tea that my cousin actually introduced me to. So it's a loose leaf green tea, so what would be called sencha. You might have heard of matcha, which is green tea powder. This is the leaf form of the green tea. And I just love drinking this. The taste of a proper green tea, which the taste of that can vary. You know, green tea you get in tea bags over here tastes very different to a proper Japanese green tea, in my opinion. And it's funny, whenever I make a pot of this green tea, or it just, the first mouthful especially, I involuntarily smile and I just get taken back and I just get this sense of Japan. So I lived in Japan for several years. I've visited many times. I've been very fortunate to do so, and I would love to live there again in the future. That's on the, you know, the maybe things for the future. We'll have to see what works out. But yeah, that is such a joy to be able to get that feeling from a drink, just to have that one, that first sip. You know, the rest of the cup is lovely as well, but it's always that first mouthful, no matter how many times I have it, just brings that sense of wonder. But this is not a green tea podcast. That'd be interesting. I wonder if there is one. Well, there kind of is one. Quick tangent before we get on. This is a knitting podcast. In case you didn't realise. There is a podcast called Wabi Sabi, which is a Japanese term that sort of means imperfectly perfect, you know, loosely translated, by Candice Kumai, who is, as far as I'm aware, quite a well-known TV personality in America, in the USA. Apparently she was on sort of like a MasterChef type program. She's a professional chef trained, but she recently released a book called Kintsugi Wellness. So Kintsugi is the method of Kintsugi is the method of repairing pottery in Japan, where they actually use gold within the lacquer. So you might have seen that, and so the term has been and can be applied to you know, finding the beauty in the broken, essentially. So her book, which I am yet to get a copy of because I'm having trouble getting it over here in Australia, yeah, essentially looking at the wellness, but from the perspective of, you know, the beautiful in the not so perfect. And she has a podcast called Wabi Sabi, and she drinks matcha, the powdered green tea, every day, and that forms a lot of part of what she does and her cooking and that sort of thing. So there's a tangent, but it's a podcast recommendation. It's just happening all at the beginning, whereas usually I put that sort of thing at the end. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for bearing with me. To begin a podcast, I would usually start with broaching the subject, but because I'm at home today, I'm not planning on going anywhere, so I'm quite casual. I'm not wearing a brooch, but my cardigan sort of has an inbuilt brooch. So this is Harley Quinn. I believe I've worn this in the podcast before, but she never goes out of fashion. So to me, so yes, no official brooch, but Harley poking out here. This is the Wonder Woman wrap. I'll take it off so you can have a look properly. The pattern by Carissa Browning. Here it is. That is so cool. I love this pattern so much because I love Wonder Woman and I love these colours. This is knit in Madeline Tosh Merino Light in, oh goodness, Tarte. blank. It's like their most favourite red colour and one of my favourites. Sorry, most famous of Madeleine Tosh is Tarte, and this is Composition Book Grey. So yes, I'm wearing this because it's a little chilly today. It's quite rainy and grey. And we do have heating in the house, but I don't like to have it on when it's just me at home because it uses quite a lot of power. It's reverse cycle air conditioning. So I'll save that for when everyone else gets home. So I was wearing a beanie earlier, but I'm not that cold now, so that's good. Okay, shall we start with some knitting now that we've had that little chat and catch up? We're just warming up, you know, literally and figuratively. So I've got a few finished objects for you, so let's begin. So, as well as loving Harlequin and loving red, loving green tea, one of the other things I really like is the moon. I'm not really into astrology in a huge way. You know, I know my star sign and I know bits and pieces about star signs. I'm a Cancerian, July birthday. So, you know, I know bits and pieces, and I know that my ruling planet for my star sign is the moon. But it's not so much anything to do with that. I've just always liked the moon, and maybe for those who really believe in strong astrology, maybe that's why I've always liked it. Who knows? My point being, I've just always really liked the moon, even since I was little. I've got several dresses that have the moon on it. I've got some earrings, so I just really like the form and the concept of it. I can't really describe it. I just really like it. I don't need to describe it, do I? But anyway, I was looking up for some patterns a long while ago to do with the moon, and there's one by Caitlin French, who is a great designer, and I think most, if not all, of her patterns are free on Ravelry. And she has one called Of the Moon, because Caitlin is very much into that side of things, I think. So a lot of her patterns have similar sorts of names to do with the planets or nature. But yeah, I've always liked Of the Moon because of the moon reference, but I've always loved the pattern. And here it is. Isn't it beautiful? So, oh, it's gorgeous. I haven't even worn this yet because I blocked it a few weeks ago now. It's terrible. And then I've had it in a bag to show you for the podcast. And I think last episode, 73, I showed all the things I've been working on for charity. So I didn't get to this. So yeah, this has been waiting for a little while. So very glad to have it with you now. So the yarn that I've used is by One Twisted Tree, and that's dyed by Danny of the Prairie Girls Knit and Spin podcast. And the colourway is called Miss Fisher's Pearl Handled Pistol, which is from the book series and then the TV series. Is it Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries or something like that? It's, as I believe, I haven't read or watched it yet, but I'd really like to. The character Franny Fisher is like a private detective in the 1920s, something like that. So that's what this is named of, because I think most of Danny's colourways for One Twisted Tree do have a pop culture reference, and that's this one. It's a Sport DK base. I can't remember what the base is called, sorry, but that's the weight. It's not a fingering weight, it was a thicker yarn. And it's yarn I've had for many, many years, and I'd originally started using this one again years ago for the honeycomb hat pattern, or honeybee. It was a honey related, and it was lots of cables, and I think if I made it now I'd be better at it. I think when I did it back then I wasn't as experienced and perhaps didn't have my heart in it, so I made a couple of mistakes that were then really hard to rip back, and I just ripped the whole thing out and decided I just didn't want it enough, and decided I didn't want a purple hat. But I'm really glad in a way, because I used up pretty much all the yarn I think that I had to knit this, or maybe not all, I've just got some left, but it was already caked up. Now, I mentioned last episode that a lot of what I've knit this year has been out of yarn that came in a pre-wound ball, or that I had already caked up, you know, leftovers or something such as this one where I'd ripped it out. And that's been really helpful because yeah, I've had a lot going on in life this year with my mum having Alzheimer's. We've now got her in her nursing home. But there was, and you know, other life stuff, which I won't go into because it's not just my business. So it's been great to just be able to grab and go. Now, so, you know, my emotion's been up and down for about a solid 2 months prior to mum getting a place in the nursing home. I was in a really, really deep depression. Just some quick real talk here on the side of the knits. Don't worry, it's still here. We're still getting back to it. you know, I was still functioning, I was still going to work, but I was eating really badly. I was drinking a lot more than I usually do. I don't usually drink much at all. I actually put on about 5 kilos in 6 weeks. How does it work with pounds? Is 1 kilo half a pound or 2 pounds? So it was either 5 pounds, no, it can't be 5 pounds. Either 2.5 kilos or 2.5 pounds or 10 pounds. 5 kilos. Look it up if you're interested. It doesn't really matter. The point being, it was quite a lot for the short period of time. And when we got Mum a place in the nursing home and we knew she was safe and that part of the stress was lessened, I did feel hugely better. I started looking after myself a bit more, as I was mentioning in the last episode. But, you know, there's still all the underlying things, the stress now of emptying a house, all that sort of thing. And I am getting to the point about the yarn. It meant that I was having, or I have been having, little panic attacks here and there, but not while I've been doing anything that's ostensibly stressful. And when I decided I wanted to knit this shawl, I couldn't decide what yarn I wanted to use. Because I think it's written for fingering, but you can use whatever size you want. Or maybe it's written for sport. Either way, you can use whatever. So I was pulling out all these yarns, couldn't decide, was going here and there. And I didn't quite have a full panic attack, but I pretty much almost did because I couldn't decide on a yarn. Now, luckily I know my emotions enough that I knew the panic attack was not because of the yarn. It was underlying things, but yeah, that's the story of how I just decided. I had noted on Ravelry that I was going to use this yarn for this pattern, and so instead of continuing to panic and fuss over which coloured yarns I should use, and should I do red, wouldn't I rather have a red moon, I just thought, no, let's go with purple. You already made that decision, and I'm glad I did because it looks lovely, I think. It's such a beautiful colour. It's purple with charcoal and light grey in it. So, you know, from a distance, and I think probably a bit more pronounced on the camera than in real life, although a little bit too, but you can sort of see stripes as such of the different colours in the variegation, and I just love it. It's so beautiful. On Friday, 31st of August, it's a day of recognition of people who identify as LGBTQI. Might be like Diversity Day or something. Forgive me, I'm not sure what the actual day is called, but it's a day of, you know, recognition and acknowledgement. And it's a Wear Purple Day, so I'm going to wear this on Friday because I'll wear purple any day. But this is going to be its first official outing. Oh, so that's tomorrow, of course, yes. Tomorrow for me. Who knows when it will be? Might have probably already passed when you see this, but regardless. It's got beautiful lace at the bottom and very simple. It wasn't anything that I found confusing or problematic in any way. So I found it quite simple, very clear directions. Now I believe I added a couple of extra garter rows, maybe just 2 more, so 1 more garter ridge at the bottom, just because mine looked like it might flip up a little bit. So who knows if it would have when I blocked it or not, but I'm glad that I added it on. And it's lovely because it's that Sport DK. It's got a really nice thickness to it and it blocked out beautifully. So yes, I highly recommend that pattern of the Moon by Caitlin French. And Danny's yarn, One Twisted Tree, really, really beautiful as well. So yes, very happy with that. And that's how much I have left. So actually I do have quite a bit. I haven't weighed it yet, but that'll be really nice. Who knows, I might yet make a purple hat. We will see. And the project bag I was using is this gorgeous one. It's my logo. This was made just for me by the lovely Lottie, who is Whole Lotta Yarn. And she formerly had a podcast, but she's taking a bit of a break from that at the moment. So it's very, very special. So from YarnderWoman bag to WonderWoman bag, this is a project, I don't think I've blocked these yet actually, or I possibly haven't even sewn in the ends. Nope, haven't done either. So I obviously finished these and then moved on with my life. These are some yoga socks that I've made. Let's see, how to demonstrate. Brilliant, Melinda, brilliant. There we go. So it's essentially a sock without a heel or toe, so it's open There are two. There we go. And they're in, as I said, my lovely Wonder Woman bag. That's by Knit Sew Pop. That was kindly given to me, and we had one for, actually, the Wonder Woman wrap knit along that we did last year. That went as a prize. So the yarn that I've used for this was a sock blank that I dyed myself using food colouring, just red and blue. And, oh, actually, very thematic. This was the Harley Quinn that I did, and it was sort of in the colours from the Suicide Squad version of Harley Quinn from the movie and the comics. And you can see there Quinn, so I had written Harley further up, and then I just washed the red and blue all over the place. And the pattern I loosely used, everything will be linked to my Ravelry page, but I believe it was a free pattern by Peyton's, but theirs had a texture stitch within the sock itself, but I didn't follow that. I just followed their numbers and the method for making all the holes and whatnot. So ribbing at the top, I did a 3x1 just to try, and I think it's a little bit loose, or not grippy enough, I feel, but yeah, it'll do. And I also did 64 stitches because I've been previously doing 68 stitches, both on a 2.25mm needle for myself, and I've been finding a lot of the socks I've knitted previously go very loose after I've been wearing them for a little while, and it's fine, you know, if you're just wearing them around the house, it doesn't matter if they're loose. And wearing them, if you wear them with a tight shoe, that holds it in place, but if I wear them with a loose shoe, they can bag a bit, and also I figure doing less stitches means less knitting, so it'll get done quicker. So I did 64 to try, and then when you get down to, I suppose if you pretend this is your foot, your leg and your foot, when you get down to your ankle, you do some ribbing. So you start doing some ribbing. From that point, you then cast off on one side, knit around, and then recast on so that you've got the hole. It's a free pattern, there's many versions out there. Then you continue the ribbing a little bit, so there's ribbing on both sides, a little bit more of the foot, and then ribbing at the bottom as well. And so the idea of them is when you're doing yoga or Pilates, anything like that, you can still get the suction, I guess, on your heel and the ball of your foot while still being a little bit warm. My concern is that when I recast on after casting off and recasting on, I just did my normal knitted cast on. It's very tight, so even though it's on ribbing, it's not very stretchy on the cast on itself. So we'll see. Maybe after I've blocked it, it might loosen up a bit. And look, if they don't fit terribly well, it's less important because they're not an enclosed sock. So I think it's going to be fine. A lot of these were knit when I was at the Perth Supernova Comic Convention. Damien, my partner, had his art store, DKS Art and Design, and I always go to help him, so I was knitting on these a lot, and having the Harley Quinn colours was quite appropriate. So yes, I've got to still weave in the ends. I tend to often drop a stitch on socks lately. I don't know why, it just seems to be my new thing. Thankfully I always catch them. Oh look, I've done it on both actually, there we go. There's one there. So I will just sew that in, by the time I notice them, they're usually too far up that there's not really any yarn left to be able to pick them up through. So they're fine. So they're sort of, I guess, finished, but still need the finishing touches. So I won't show you them again. Maybe you'll see a photo of me wearing them because I'll be suddenly so inspired to do lots of yoga. It was kind of a reason I wanted to do them, as well as not wanting to fuss with doing heels while I was working at the stall, because it's sort of, pick up and down. Even though I can do the Fish Lips Kiss heel without a pattern now, I didn't want to be in the middle of a heel, serving customers as well. So this was good. You could just keep going essentially. But yes, my thought is, if I have these great, yoga socks, I'll be really inspired to do yoga all the time. I really want to do yoga, just like I was saying last episode, I really want to do daily meditation. I just have to work out the motivating factor that's going to get me there. Will it be the socks? Likely not, but it doesn't matter. We'll pretend it will be. Some actual socks. Again, I haven't woven in the ends or blocked them yet, but these are very fun. So I've called these my Macbeth socks. Macbeth, the play by Shakespeare. because the main yarn, the stripy yarn, is the Witch's Brew colourway by Knit Picks, and it's very, very pretty. And I only had one ball of it, so I was able to get the 2 socks done with just that one ball of the stripes, and then I've used a purple for the cuff, the heel, and part of the foot on both of them. And you'll see one of them has more purple and one of them has more grey. So this purple is Query Fibre Arts in the lavender colourway, and I had a 5 gram ball, so it was one that was sold specifically to be used for, you know, heels, tucks and coats. Heels, cuffs and toes. And it just goes so beautifully with all the purples in the Witch's Brew. So it would have been this one that I did first, and I did, I think I've done a 1 by 1, just normal ribbing, not twisted. 1 by 1, gone down the leg, stopped to do Fish Lips Kiss heel, and then I think I must have I divided the Witch's Brew into 2 balls, or was I using it from both ends? I think perhaps, no, I was. Isn't it great when you see me just working things out while I'm on camera talking to you? What I did was I was knitting from both ends of the ball. So I started one sock, then started the next, and sort of did them concurrently in that way I could work out how much yarn I had left. So I was doing both the feet, and then I could see where I was and therefore knew where to stop with the yarn. And it worked out exactly even. So it was literally half the ball, which is really nice. So I think the ball, I just wound off like a little bit of a colour at the beginning, you know, where it, you know, just the end of the ball had just a few, a little bit of one of the stripes. So that was really good that the rest worked out nice and evenly. And obviously I didn't worry about colour matching because I was just starting at both ends. And I'm really happy with it. And so yeah, then I continued with this one, and I wasn't bothered going in if I'd had enough of the purple for both socks, but I did think as I was getting towards the toe that I probably would not have enough to do all of the foot on both. So then I've done this light grey. This is a Gloomy 50, not Gloomy, Goomy, Bergère de France, Goomy 50 in the aluminium colourway. And I've done the toe from the Skedaddle sock pattern by Lena Gerald, and that's my standard sock that I always do, but I Kitchener the toe rather than cinching the stitches because I've had too many where they've come undone, so clearly my stitching up has some issues. And so that's that one. Then I went back and just started on the purple, kept going till I'd used up all of it, and then just kept going with the aluminium of the Bergère de France. So, as I said, I wasn't bothered. I am still not bothered that they don't match exactly. I think that's part of the fun. And yes, really love them. Obviously, I need to go and weave them in, and then I can actually wear them. So again, I guess sort of similar to the Of the Moon shawl, where I put them aside and then kind of, well, not forgot, but I, you know, wanted to podcast them. So that's that. So yeah, Macbeth socks. On my birthday, one of the independent cinemas in the city was showing a filmed version of the play of Macbeth. So a lot of the theatres in London tend to do a live broadcast. Now, it's not live when we see it, but they have a filmed version of the stage plays, and then they'll show them a couple of times one weekend. So it's not a long run. It's usually only 2 options of seeing it. But Macbeth is my favourite Shakespeare play, and it was on my actual birthday. So I went with my best friend and we saw it. It was, you know, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was lovely. So I had Macbeth play, and then I had my Macbeth socks. And then I went on Audible because I'd seen an audiobook called Macbeth, and it was a retelling of the story, and it was by the author Jo Nesbø, I believe, who wrote the movie wrote the book Snowman that the movie has been made of recently. I haven't seen it, but that's the person to just, you know, locate them. Really well written. It was Macbeth set in like the Scottish police force, so the whole story, but then fit into a modern day. Really well written, but too well written. I found it too depressing because I knew what was coming up. I knew who was going to die and who was going to be betrayed. So, and given my you know, there's lots of stresses in my life and I wanted something not that sad, I actually stopped listening to it and returned it because it was just too much for me, but really well written. It's a shame I couldn't get through it, but actually I think I'd read that somewhere on one of the reviews. Someone else said they couldn't finish it because they knew what was going to happen and because it's written so well and with the characterization. But it's a recommendation if you feel you would like to read it. It was very cleverly done, the way that the characters from the play had been fit into this police station society. So yes, that's my Macbeth. I can't wait to wear them because the Felici yarn is so soft. And these I did at the 64 stitch as well. And Felici's a little bit on the bigger side of fingering weight yarn. So I think they're going to be nice and cozy. Small Felici, but this is the worsted weight, and these are really hard to show you. Floppy messes. This is the Bunny Buddy pattern. It's a free pattern, I think maybe from Lion Brand, one of the USA companies. And it's to make like a little cuddly buddy toy for a baby. So this is the body. You just knit it, essentially knitting a diamond. It's just increasing. And then you have the two little arms. And then you make a pocket. No, I haven't filled it yet. This is the head. You can see that's a pocket there. It's such a clever construction. You do purl and slip stitches and it makes a little pocket for the head. See? And you stuff it and then tie it up. And so then the ears are on and it's all good to go. I finished knitting this, and there's two, ages ago. They don't take very long to make. I've made them before. The pattern's really good and really lovely, I think, gift because it's so squishy and something the baby can really use straight away. Yes, I finished knitting them ages ago. I've blocked them because I wanted to block them before I put the stuffing in so that I didn't have to wet block the stuffing. And I just haven't stuffed them yet. I don't know why. Just haven't. I also have to make, and I'll show you in my whips, another one of these because when I was knitting on this one, I was knitting away however many stitches it tells you to do the head. The ones I've made previously I've done in bulky weight yarn, and that might be what the pattern's written for. This is worsted weight. And I'm knitting along and I wasn't near the total of the stitch count for the head, but it just looked really long. So after a while I just stopped and I thought, okay, well, that's fine. Yeah, because it's from there to there, quite long. And I was thinking it's getting too long, it's going to be silly. So I stopped, it's fine. I noted down how many rows I did because I had to make two. Oh, that's right. The reason I'm making two is they're for a very good friend's babies. They're expecting twins. So I've done the two. So I wrote down the number of rows, cast on the second one, off I go, knitting along, and I'm thinking, I don't remember the head looking much longer before, but you know, hey, I've written down the numbers, trust the numbers. You know, maybe I'm just used to it now, and that's why it doesn't look that long. Finish the whole thing, then pick up this one and go, yeah, no, those heads are not the same length. So I'll hold it up. Yeah, see, no, no. Yeah. And then I'm like, how? I wrote it down, I followed it, I checked and I'm counting and I'm like, no, that's 30, it's definitely 30. Then I count this one and I'm like, well, that's not 30. And I couldn't figure out how on earth I'd got it wrong because I was using a little stitch counter, or row counter rather, where you just click the numbers. You can either press it down, click, or you can just flick it with your finger. And I've just been flicking it with my finger because it's, you know, a quicker motion to just go click than to pick up the device, click, click down. I hope you know what I mean. I don't have it with me, so I can't actually show you, but you know, it's just a little plastic rectangle essentially. So I worked out what I did was, it took me ages to work out, when you flick it up, only the side you flick moves, whereas when you click it down, if it's changing to the next decade, you know, on the tens column and your ones column, when you click, click, it moves it to the whole next number. So I think at one point, it must have been when I got to 40, I only clicked the ones column, so it changed it to a 0, but it still read 30 because I moved 1, but it didn't move it to the next tens column. I hope that makes sense. My point being, I mucked up and now I have to do a second one because I'm not ripping anything out, because if you've watched a long time, you know I don't like ripping things out, and there's nothing wrong with either of these. I can just have a spare one to either give to charity or have on hand if someone else I know is expecting, and you know, colours that would suit their taste. So that's what I'm doing. So they're lovely, they've worked out really well, but I do now have to do a second one, or a third one, a second blue one. The reason I'm not going to do a second one of these colours, you'll see there's a lot more ends on this one. So this colourway includes 2 shades of pink as part of the 4 colours. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, as part of the 6 colours, I used 4. So 2 purples, red, yellow, and then there were 2 shades of pink. Both of these are for boys, and while I have no issue with pink for boys, and I don't think the parents I'm sending this to would either, these were more the colours that they had mentioned that they liked. They didn't definitely say no pink, but pink was not a colour they'd listed, if that makes sense. So I thought better to pull the pink out. And I really like how this turned out without it. I think it is really vibrant. It actually reminds me of the wrappers of Cadbury cream eggs, which I don't eat, but that's the colours that I get from it. And I think it worked out really nicely. And I love how the ears turned out with one all red and one red and purple. Such fun. So I will stuff them, then they'll be ready. I haven't marked them as finished on my Ravelry page because I sort of feel they're not finished till I stuff them. It'll probably take me 5 minutes to do both. Maybe that should be on my list of things to do. I should give myself a break because I've been very, very busy lately. Every weekend we've been emptying stuff at my mum's house. It's nearly ready to go on the market, fingers crossed. But yes. The next project I've been working on, I just finished this morning, so this is definitely not blocked, but not because I've put it away and not thought about it. I've literally finished it before I started filming. This is a sock head hat by Kelly McClure, and I've never made one of these before, and it was the impetus for a new knit along that I'll tell you about soon. But this is how much I've left, which I'm a little bit disappointed about because I was hoping to use up all the yarn, and before I started the decreases, I weighed how much I had left, then I knit one more round and I weighed it again and I worked it out, and then I thought, you know, I could probably get, you know, X number of extra rows, but I don't want to run short. I don't want to have to pull out when I start decreasing. Yeah, I could have done a few more, but never mind. I haven't weighed it to see how many more I could have done because then I'll just drive myself nuts. So doesn't matter, does it? This leftover can be for something else. Yay! This yarn is, this is Query Fibre Arts as well, which was the same as the purple accent on my Macbeth socks. And this is the Ladybug colourway. And I believe that if it's knit up in a certain gauge, perhaps on socks, you would actually, the black parts would line up more like Ladybug markings. But as you can see, it's just gone on a cool sort of tiger leopard print kind of thing. I have used this yarn before and made a very short cowl, which means it's going to go really nicely. And I also have a red leopard print cardigan, so I think that'll all look really nice as a set. When I was knitting it, I was using a 3mm circular needle, so I could just go round and round, which was great. Best way ever to do hats. I've discovered, I'm sure a lot of you already knew that. But because it was, I guess it was a 40 centimetre, I don't know what that is in inches, 12, 15 inches maybe, something like that. I thought it was going to be too small, and I knit probably about up to there, and I was thinking, it's too small, doesn't matter, I'll just, you know, give the hat away, it can be for charity. That's fine, I'm enjoying the process, just let it go. But then as I kept going, I was like, no, but I really like this yarn because I've got the cowl to match it. It'll go with my cardigans. So it's like, no, I really want something in this yarn for myself. And then I thought, I cannot face ripping it out. So I put another needle in that was much longer, and I was able to try it on, and it fit. So that was very exciting. Now, I wanted it quite floppy, but it's not. Let me have a go here. So it's quite loose. but I think while it fits and there's nothing wrong with it, it's certainly not too tight. I think I would have liked a little bit more width-wise, so more stitches to just make it looser as well, as a bit baggy at the back there. I suppose with, you know, I have that much left. I suppose if I'd made it wider, I probably wouldn't have been able to get as much length on it. So that's how much length there is. Obviously, that's probably not the way I'm going to wear it. People who want to wear it that way, that's more than fine. So this is it. So I'm very happy with it. But as I said, I would have liked it a little bit looser around, but it's more than fine. So yes, very happy with that. I'm very excited to have that off the needles. Now the very top, I'd say probably the last 10 rows, which by that point, I think there's only about, you know, 50, then 25, then 12 stitches or whatever the numbers are. Very small numbers. And this is a free pattern as well, by the way, so I'm not giving anything away. But by that point, it was getting too narrow to have my circular needle. And I could have just done magic loop, but could I be bothered doing magic loop? No. So I thought I'll just get some DPNs. Could I find my 3mm DPNs? No. I found my 2.75mm DPNs and I thought that is going to do fine. And yeah, you know, I guess if you analysed that top, you could maybe see the stitches are smaller, but is anyone going to be analysing the top of the hat? No. And if they are, they should go away from me, because no. But yeah, that was more than fine. It worked out, and yeah, it's not going to make any difference to the hat or how it wears. So I'm going to get that blocked and we'll see if I can maybe pull it out. I don't want to pull it too much because I don't want the ribbing to stretch into oblivion. But yes, so very happy with that. Now the modification I made is I did only, I think, 4 centimeters, which is about not quite 2 inches of ribbing. And I think the original pattern calls for more than double that, because in the pattern photo, the brim is folded. So it's sort of double the amount of ribbing that you'd need. It's not cold enough here in Perth to warrant that kind of thickness. It does get cold, and of course cold is subjective depending on what you're used to. But given this is a fingering weight yarn, I wanted this to be a lighter weight hat and not have that bulk as well as the extra thickness for warmth. I didn't want the bulk for the look. So I just knit until I was happy with the length of the ribbing and then just went straight into the stockinette. I also kitchened the last few stitches, just as I said I did with my socks, because this calls as well for just looping the yarn through cinching. I don't know what I do, but it doesn't stay tied up, doesn't stay woven in, pops out. So yeah, I kitchened. I think there was 9 stitches left, so I just put 5 on the back, 4 on the front needle, and then 2 of the back needle I just did together to make 4 equivalent. And yes, very happy with that. Looking forward to wearing it, because yes, the weather gone very cold and grey again. It's beautiful sunshine the other day coming into spring, but I think I'm definitely going to get at least 1 or 2 more opportunities to wear this. Okay, so from a finished red and black project to a half finished red and black project. They're very similar, aren't they? That makes me so happy. Ooh, the red and black. So as I said, that one is query fibres in the hat. This lovely sock is One Twisted Tree again. So that was the purple yarn of my moon shawl, was One Twisted Tree. That's the tag. I think this is quite an old label, so it may be different now, but still the same name, One Twisted Tree. And this one was a Halloween colourway many years ago, and it's called And I Was the Prey. Oh, yes. And I love it. I am so happy with these. Now you'll see my heel is a bit different. So I did a Fish Lips Kiss heel, and I don't know if it's going to be sort of noticeable, but this is pretty stiff. And what I did was I actually held the normal sock yarn with an additional black yarn, just a plain black. And this is the project bag I used. This was made for me by a very good friend. All the reds and Seattle. Definitely have to get to Seattle one day. So yes, I held the One Twisted Tree yarn with the Bergère de France in the black to just give it a thicker heel. I wanted to give it a try. I had done this for socks years ago, For some I made for my partner, Damien, and I think I made some for my stepson and did it as well. And I am finding in a lot of my hand knit socks, the heel is wearing through. In fact, I've got a big pile of socks where I'm going to have to basically rip out the heel, and then I guess I'll probably do an afterthought heel with what's left. So I've never done an afterthought heel before. I know Mars and her daughter Adachi, Mars with Hey Brown Berry podcast, did not exactly a tutorial, but showed when they were doing it for the first time on an episode last year or the year before. And I know Grace from Babel's Travelling Yarns has also talked about doing it. And I know that Grace especially mentioned doing a few rounds plain knitting before you start the decrease. So I'll have to look into all that. So if anyone's got any good tutorials they can link to, please feel free to put them in the comments either below or on the Ravelry group. That would be awesome. But yes, so that future task aside, where I have to sort out and redo heels, I'm hoping that that won't be as much of an issue or not as quickly by doing the thicker yarn. So I'm still using my normal 2.25mm needles, but double strength or double thickness of yarn. So it was actually really stiff to do. So I had to put them down a lot because it really hurt my hands with my rheumatoid arthritis. But it was worth it. I really like how it looks because the yarn is red with the black. This has gone black with red. I just really like the effect, as well as hopefully the functionality. So that's the first one. I haven't cast on the second one yet. That's as much as I've got of the first ball, and I had 2 cakes of this, so that's going to work out nicely. I had previously used this on the Colour Affection shawl. It was one that I made for a friend. So again, it was already caked up. The second one was not, and that's why I've only got one sock done because it wasn't ready. And then I had a yarn winding party a few weeks ago and did this, but by that point I'd already started several other projects, so I just haven't gone back to it, but I will. It's not second sock syndrome in that I don't want to knit it, I'm just not interested in knitting that particular project right now, and there's a difference. Actually, now that I've finished my sock head hat, I can probably cast that second sock on because that'll be something that's good to take around as an out and about project. Because what I've been doing as an out and about project lately is getting a bit big. This is my little bobbins bag with the knit fabric and the beautiful spots. This is a hitchhiker shawl. So I think I mentioned last episode I was planning to cast this on. Lovely Mars again of Hey Brown Berry had given me the booklet of all the hitchhiker patterns. There's 4 patterns in there, all by my Tina Bem, and they're all with inspiration from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And the hitchhiker shawl is very famous and very popular pattern. If you're not aware, it is one with teeth on the side, and the original pattern has 42 teeth because in the book 42 is the answer to everything, the mysteries of life. In true Melinda YarnderWoman's fashion, there's some stylized elements to my shawl. Do I mind? Nope. So it's a paid for pattern, so I'm not going to explain it, but there's a certain formula you follow. It's a 8 or 10 row repeat that your shawl is going, it creates a symmetrical shawl. So it's getting wider as you go, but on an angle. So I can hold up here. Now, even there you can probably see, it looks a kind of bit like a dragon's tail or a dinosaur's tail. There's some design elements. Here, I don't know why, but there's less of a gap here. And these ones look more like waves than points. You see these ones, it's more like the hokusai, the famous Japanese painting of the big tsunami wave. That's kind of the shape it's going for. So that's kind of cool, you know, it's art, inspiring art. There's an explanation of everything. So yeah, those ones are more like waves and there's less space between them. Up here, these two are wider because I did extra rows before doing the points. I think I've done that a couple more times. This one's shorter, you can see. That one's more wave-like as well. Do I care? Absolutely not, because I think when you're wearing it, it's A, not going to be noticeable, and B, even if it is noticeable, it still looks good, and it's still going to look quite funky with all the points, and it's still going to wrap and be warm. So yeah, no way was I ripping it up. Because yeah, I wouldn't have had the mental capacity to do that. As I said, life's been very stressful. Knitting's supposed to be relaxing. I don't want more stress. That's just so funny. I was just like, nope, we're starting another one, without giving it a gap. Anyway, whatever. So, as I said, it's an 8 or a 10 row repeat. And when I first started it, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to have the pattern with me all the time. But then after doing a couple of repeats, and at the bottom, because you're starting with so few stitches, so you're going through the repeats quite quickly, I then was able to, read my knitting and then work out, oh, okay, so this is always going to happen on this side and, front and back side and all that sort of thing. So that's what this little removable stitch marker is for. It's just to show me the right side. I do know now that the points will always be on the end of the right side of the shawl, but I do like to keep the little stitch marker there because it is a good visual reminder, especially as the rows are getting bigger. When I get to an end, I can go, oh, yep, stitch marker, so I know where I am. So that's been quite helpful. So very fun pattern. I know lots of people have made more than one of this pattern, and when I cast it on, people said, yes, it won't be your last, and I can see why. It's very rhythmic when you get into it. I have the Knit Night shawl as my go-to pattern. I know a lot of people have this as their go-to, and I can understand, and I think this will probably be added to my go-to repertoire as well, but I'm not getting rid of the Knit Night, don't worry. The yarn I'm using is a beauty from Daydream Yarns, and she sent it to me so kindly for my birthday. So I've actually called this pattern 40 Red, because for my 40th birthday, I got the pattern and the yarn. So when I said just then I've called the pattern, I meant my project on Ravelry. I've called 40 Red. And this yarn, this is the rest of the ball. So you can see there's different colours. So it's a 5-colour gradient with, oh, I've just seen I've pulled one of the stitches up. That's okay. Pull it out. There we go. It's obviously, I think maybe the needle got caught on it in the bag, but it's fine. So the colours, oh, there we go. You can see here. See the jump between colours? So it doesn't, it's a distinct change between the colours, which is great because I've been knitting this a lot, as I said earlier, as a travel project. I've also been knitting it while watching shows with my family. So at those times, it's quite dark. There's still enough light for me to see. But it's really cool because there's a couple of times, when I've been at various points of the project that I've then the next day looked and gone, oh, I'm on the new colour. Oh, I didn't realise. So, so you can see, yeah, there's a change here. And then I've just recently gone into a new colour here. So it's 5 shades of red, and it starts with this beautiful like burgundy colour, like burgundy like the wine. So it's like a red wine colour at this stage, which is great because I love red wine. Pinot Noir is my preferred type, just so you know. But yeah, so that's beautiful. So you're starting from that real purpley red wine red. Then we're coming up to this lighter colour. And then, so we're here, and then there's this one, and then we're going to go into the full fire engine red, which is going to be great fun. So I was debating, like it was in a skein when it came to me. So I was debating which colour I wanted to start with to make my cake, so I wanted to use a centre pull ball. So I did debate on whether I'd start with the bright red because, bright reds, this is my favourite colour. Oh, I'm just looking out, it's blowing a gale of rain, it's just blustering everywhere. It's fascinating for you, isn't it? Because you can't see it. So glad that we had that little chat about it. So yes, I debated if I would start with the bright red because that's my usual colour. But I thought no, because this part, when you sort of wrap it round, like it's not the same shape as this one, but you have the tails. I thought it would be quite cool to have that purpley red quite visible because it's so different to other things that I've knit. So I'm very happy with the choice that I made. I think both would have looked beautiful, but loving this. So that is going really nice. But yeah, as I said, it's getting a little bit big now to take round and about. It's still fine, Yeah, as it gets wider and wider, because it obviously goes in that shape, it'll be a little bit more bulky. Not impossible to take around, but it's another good reason to cast on that other sock, isn't it? Yes, Melinda. So this beauty I've been working on for a while, but I haven't shown you yet. And as I'm looking at it, I've realised it's the same yarn as the red in my YarnderWoman wrap, the Tosh Merino Light in the Tart. And this probably would have been the leftovers from this shawl, which is why it was already wound up and was there for me to use for this project. So handy. So this is the Angel Face Turban pattern by Amy Apparel, I believe her name is, or Appel, I beg your pardon, Amy Appel. And it's a wonderful knit and I'm having such fun with it. I believe I've approached the part where soon I'll be working in the round. So it's a sort of 1950s, it'll have a bow up the top there. And I believe it was part of her Pink Ladies Like Grease inspired collection. And the pattern was given to me, which is so kind, and by a friend, not from Amy herself. And it's wonderful. It's a paid pattern, so I won't discuss the techniques, but I just love this ruching detail. It's a little bit hard, maybe if I hold it that way. There you go, so you can see, you start off straight, but then as you're knitting, you use your knitting a specific technique to gather across your rows. And it's just beautiful. And look at the variegation in that tart colourway. It's just beautiful. Look at that. Oh, I love it so. It makes me so happy. So yes, very much enjoying this. I started it a while back and then I put it down, can't remember why, just, you know, put it down to do something else and then didn't go back to it straight away. And then when I picked it up again, I had taken a photo of the row counter because I needed to use the row counter for another project. But could I find the photo? No. Had I written down the number of rows anyway? No. So the good thing is though, this is how mistakes help us. Previously when I first started it, I had made a mistake. I'd read the pattern and it said to do something. And then when I did it, it was, you know, wrong and it didn't work. And I thought, oh, that must be an errata in the pattern because my experience of what this particular technique says means you do this. No, funnily enough, I was wrong. Who would have thought? Yeah. So, but what it meant was I could then read my knitting when I picked it up again and I didn't know where I couldn't work out what row I was on. Because I knew what the stitches did and could read where I was. So isn't that cool? Making that mistake, humbling as it was, wasn't because it wasn't that big a deal. But you know what I mean? It was a mistake, but I learned from it and it helped me and that was awesome. So yes, learning is good. And we can't all be perfect and it's through mistakes that we learn. That's our little lesson for the day. So yes, can't wait to wear this because as well as the reason I cast on a sock head hat is I wanted some lighter things to wear because the main beanie that I wear, which is a lovely gift, is in worsted weight, which is just perfect for winter. It's just that right level of thickness. But now as we're coming into the end of winter, the beginning of spring, I wanted some lighter hats and headgear for when it is still chilly, especially when I leave for work in the mornings at, you know, anywhere between 6 and 6:30. But not quite chilly enough for a worsted weight. So I at least have the hat finished, I just haven't done this. I wonder why I haven't. I've got double points in here. I was thinking maybe I just can't find my needles, but I have got some double points. Then now that I'm looking at them, I think maybe I need a smaller size and I'd gotten the bigger size. Again, thank you for helping me work through this as I talk to you about it. But yes, that's very fun. And she released, the designer Amy, released a children's version of the pattern. And when it came out, she had a discount on it on the launch weekend. So I've bought that because I think Yarn Denise is going to look very cute in that. Yarn Teen, it won't be her thing. It's just not her style. She'd still look lovely, it just wouldn't be her style. So yes, I'm going to make, at some point, the small version as well so that I've got one and Yarn Denise and I can hit the town looking matchy-matchy. Okay, our knit-alongs. Yes, or craft-alongs. But yes, there's an S there. I hinted earlier that we've got another knit-along, but first we'll talk about the one that we already know about, which is the red along. That started in July, because usually I do it for the whole month of July, but it just didn't happen this year. So it's running from, I think it was like whatever day in July I announced it, and it was on the Ravelry group is when it started, and it's running through all of August and all of September, so you've still got a lot of time to join in. All you need to do is knit something using red yarn, knit, crochet, weave or spin, so red yarn or red fibre. It can have other colours in it, but the main colour should be red, so use your judgment. You can knit anything you like. It's fine for you to double dip in other knit-alongs or crochet-alongs. Just check with the other group if they're okay with it, but I'm more than fine. Works in progress are welcome. We've got the one thread in Ravelry for all whips, chatter, finished objects, photos, everything. So it's obviously a lot of my red projects have been done in honour of the red along, as well as I just always knit red projects. So obviously I can't win anything, sadly. I'll run through the prizes that we have. We've got 3 beautiful patterns. The Kettle Valley Poncho by Masha Ibuki. The Springtime Melody by Jen Sheelan. And the Potluck Pullover by Victoria Zakanowicz. And all those 3 designers each have their own podcast as well. So Marsha has Fairy Little, Jen has the Jen Sheelan podcast, and Victoria or Vicky has Devixter Designs. So I'll put a link to all of those in the show notes, as well as to their gorgeous patterns. We've also got the yarn by Daydream Designs. Now, Daydream Designs is the one I'm using for my, what's it called? I've gone blank. Hitchhiker. So that's Daydream Designs. Oh, there's her card. Now, super sadly, the dyer has decided to close Daydream Designs. I think she just has other responsibilities that she's focusing on at the moment, so that's quite sad because she has beautiful work, but it's still wonderful that we can enjoy her yarns and this pretty one. There is a tag for this one somewhere, but it's obviously in my pile of stuff, but it's a gorgeous red with the streaks in there. So we've got that. We have got, sorry, just move everything out of the way, this cutie red fish from Japan, little bag, and the stitch markers that are made out of vintage knitting needles. And then we've got a new prize we didn't have last week. This is from Lola Star Creations, and it's an awesome Grinchmas bag. So inside it's got very funky skull and crossbones, and she's also given us, sorry they've come all funny in the post, I'll tuck those back in, but 3 balls of this beautiful red yarn to match by Patents. It's a lovely cotton blend. So that's going to be one prize. So thank you, Lawrence, for Lola Star Creates. And she's also so kind, she sent me one. And this beautiful hand spun, how gorgeous is that? It is like a cloud, beautiful merino, look at that. So I am very spoiled, thank you so much. Last episode I did show this bag from Silver Shed USA, and that was going to be a prize for the Red Along as well. I'm moving this to our other knit along, so I hope that that's okay with everyone, that I'm moving prizes around. But you know, it's not been won by anyone yet, so no one should mind. But this one is going to be in our Jump on the Bandwagon knit along crochet along. So because I've been knitting the Hitchhiker, that looks great, doesn't it? The Hitchhiker and the Sockhead Hat. Now, those are both patterns that have been out for quite a while, hugely popular. There's tens of thousands of versions of them on Ravelry. So I thought it would be fun to do a knit along using those patterns that are really super popular, but for whatever reason you just haven't knit them yet. Not that, you know, you have to have knit them already, so it doesn't matter what the reason are, you just haven't done it. But that's what the knit along's about. It's about finding a pattern that's been out a while, that's been really popular, and you yet haven't done it. So as opposed to, you know, you really love the Hitchhiker and you're going to knit another one, this is doing something new, so you can't have knit it before. There's no, you know, minimum number of projects it has to be, so it can be a really famous pattern perhaps with fewer projects of it. You know, I think most of them are going to be higher numbers, but yeah, there's no minimum number or anything like that. So again, use your judgment and just find a pattern that you've been wanting to knit a while, quite popular, and then go from there. So this is going to be one of the prizes for that one. And then also another prize I'm going to move around is this lovely, the Japanese bag, and then the cute little shape. So cute. And then we also got a lovely bag that was made by Autumn, who's Cottington, and she's in the US, and to save on, you know, air miles and carbon footprint, that's what I'm trying to say, Autumn is going to ship out the prize directly to the winner when it's announced. So here's a picture of the lovely bag here. So those are the prizes we have so far for the Join the Bandwagon Cal. I think there'll be a couple more, so I'll let you know in the future how we go with those. So yes, do come and join in. So the read along is going to be till the end of September, and then the Join the Bandwagon Cal is the end of October. So they're going to run for about the same time, and there's that crossover period in between, which means because I don't mind double dipping, you can double dip in those two cals. So for example, if I was eligible for prizes, this sockhead hat in the red yarn would be eligible for both the knit-alongs because it's a red project and it's a bandwagon pattern. So something like that. So yes, feel free, just do a post in both threads and you'll be entered. So that means that it's only during that double period though. So if you finished your red project in October, you'll only be eligible to enter the Join the Bandwagon Cal, not the read along, because that would have closed by then. But the thread will be locked anyway when it's over, so you'll be able to tell easily. I don't think there'll be any issues. So yes, do come and join us. The links are in the show notes and also down below on YouTube here. And it'd be lovely to see you, and I can't wait to see what you're making. Okay everyone, I might sign off now. Usually we'd have a bit of a chat at the end, but I think I chatted a bit at the front for you instead today, which wasn't on purpose, but I've been off work quite a few days over the last couple of weeks. I've had a terrible sinus infection and cold, so it's been really frustrating. My manager luckily is so supportive, so that's made it a lot easier, but I have missed a lot of work and I'm still quite a bit exhausted and run down, so I think I might go and make another cup of tea. I've finished up my green tea. I've been really obsessed with Earl Grey lately, so I might go and have one of those. I think that'll be nice for this chilly afternoon that it's become now. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. Do pop into the Ravelry group. I love to hear from you. Join the knit-alongs, or crochet, or spin, or sew. Weave, that's the other one I'm looking at. Sorry to say sew, I don't want to get anyone's hopes up, but for this time we're just keeping it to fibre related crafts. And in terms of the Join the Bandwagon, that's, I imagine, just going to be knit and crochet. I'm not sure if there's patterns in spinning that you could include, and weaving I'm not sure how that would work either. So I think for that one that's just knitting and crochet, but for the read along, add in your weaving and your spinning as well. I'll stop nattering. I'll go and get my cup of tea. I'll let you go. Thank you again for coming and visiting me. I will see you again very soon. And until then, happy crafting. Bye bye.